Luke here of SimBoxx, and this is, I think, the quickest turnaround in an interview I've ever had with a boxer. In light of breaking news this past couple of hours, first and foremost, I'm delighted to be joined by heavyweight boxer Nick Campbell. Nick, how are we doing?
Look, thank you for having me, man. Thanks for thinking of me. I suppose it's maybe quite appropriate considering how well I know both these men. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those that have lived under a rock for the past couple of hours, as we sit here on Thursday of fight week, we had the disappointing news that IBF heavyweight world champion Daniel Dubois was unfortunately withdrawing from his defense against Joseph Parker on the Riyadh season card. And the rumor mill went nuts, to be fair, didn't it, Nick? I'm not sure if he was on social media at the time, but some of the names that were thrown out there that we'll get onto later in the interview was a bit absurd at one point. But up steps Martin Bakole, and as you well say, you're very well placed to talk about both Joe Parker and Martin Bakole. So yeah, what a fight as a replacement. This is absurd, isn't it? 2 days out to get a replacement of this quality.
Listen, I think Big Martin and Billy have put their money where their mouth is. They always say that they're willing to fight any man, any place, any time, and they've proved that by taking the fight against Joe. On the flip side of that, Joe said to me, he's like, "I'll fight anybody. I don't care who it is." In my opinion, Martin and Joe, outside Usyk, are the two best heavyweights in the division. I know Daniel Dubois was the IBF champion, but I feel that both men beat him. So this is a hell of a fight. Hell of a fight.
Absolutely.
Risky fight. Very risky for both men at this stage, especially when a world title on the line. But listen, cometh the man, cometh the hour. They both think they're the main man, so to speak. So I think we're in for a very entertaining fight.
Yeah, absolutely. It promises to be a barnstormer. Speaking on there that both Martin Bakole and Joe Parker at different points of their career, along with Billy Nelson and Andy Lee, have championed their guys for being willing to take on anybody. Did you see the clip on? I think Kugan Cass just got it for IFL, and I think he's speaking to Spencer Brown, and he sees Joe Parker, and he shouts him. He says, "Joe, have you seen it's Martin Bakole?" And that was the moment Joe Parker found out it was confirmed to be Mark Bakole, which again just goes to show the cojones on the man that he'd said yes to three opponents. He's like, I don't know who the other two were, but Martin Bakole agreed terms first, and he was the opponent. But what a way for Joe Parker to find out, like he was just walking past a YouTube interview and he found out, yeah, you're fighting Big Martin Bakole.
Listen, that's literally the way these things kind of like turn out to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry if you can hear that in the background. Obviously, you caught me last minute, so I'm
No,
trying
it's
to
all
talk
good.
over these
It's all
guys.
good. Yeah,
But, I no, that's the way the boxing world works, and I can only imagine what must have been going on. The phone calls that are getting made, the managers who are being contacted, the promoters. It must have just been a whirlwind for everybody. Joe's probably had three. I've not spoke to Joe, so I don't know this. He's probably had three opponents thrown at him. I can imagine his response saying, "Whoever it is, yeah, fine, that's cool with me." And yeah, just that's didn't surprise me that that's how it turned out. He found out.
of course. Now, we mentioned at the start of the interview, you're intricately linked to all three guys involved in this situation at the minute. You've sparred Daniel Dubois, you was part of Billy Nelson and Matt Bacole's team, and you've been part of Joe Parker and Andy Lee's
Yeah.
setup. So, yeah. Speaking of Matt Bakole, what as a proposition, as an opponent, what does he offer this fight? What does he offer as an opponent that's different to Daniel Dubois, in your opinion?
Martin's gonna listen. Do you know what? They're actually both fairly similar. They're both going to put each other under a lot of pressure. Sorry, they would both put Joe under a lot of pressure. Both got a high punch output. I'd say Martin's the better boxer. You've got the better IQ. It's a tough one. I kind of see Martin as a kind of George Foreman-esque fighter, really. Big, strong, powerful man, throws loads of punches, an incredible chin. He's going to be very dangerous for the first 6 rounds of the fight. Obviously, I don't think he's had the camp that he would have ideally liked coming into this fight. Joe's had probably the best 12 months of his career in the boxer in terms of what he's done in the gym. And I think that could be a telling factor. But for the first 6 rounds, Martin's going to be extremely dangerous. And it's going to require the same, if not more, focus and composure in those first 6 rounds from Joe. to navigate that and take man under the deep water.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll push you for a bit of a prediction later on if you can give us one. But just touching on, you mentioned there Billy Nelson. I don't think there's quite been a trainer that's backed his fight the way Billy Nelson has backed Mark Bakole over the years. Like he got a lot of props and much deserved for that win over Jared Anderson. But before then, everyone's kept going back to that Michael Hunter loss. So knowing Billy the way you do, he's always had this confidence in Mike Bakole. As soon as he's seen the news, whether it be on a phone call or Twitter or whatever it might be, what would his instant reaction have been at that point?
You'd have been straight on the phone to Spencer, telling him, tell Turkey we'll take the fight. What's the pass? What's this? What's that? Aye, he would have had no hesitation and basically contacting him and saying, let's get on.
Brilliant.
Knowing Billy the way I do. And he, aye, like I say, everybody knows how much he backs Martin, and taking this fight confirms that.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, how would Andy Lee have reacted to the possibility of Mike Bakole being a 2 day notice replacement for his man Joe Parker?
Listen, Andy again has ultimate confidence in Joe. He knows the work that he's put in. Also, there's a bit of a backdrop as well. Martin's been in a lot of camps with Tyson. Joe's been involved in those camps. Um, Martin was Joe's chief sparring partner when he fought Joe Joyce. So yeah, they know each other well. They know what to expect. I think both men are completely different fighters, especially since that Joe Joyce fight where they shared a lot of rounds together. And yeah, both men know each other really well. It's kind of funny because obviously Billy is Lewis Crocker's trainer and is
Yeah.
Paddy Donovan's trainer who are going to fight very soon. So it's a bit of a weird one, you know what I mean? Two massive fights, both same trainers in each one. So yeah, there's a lot of backstory to this. There's a lot of history between them. Nothing bad, no bad blood. It's business at the end of the day. Both men respect one another a lot. Just seen an interview with Joe saying, listen, he's a hell of a fighter.
Mhm.
A lot of people are scared of him. I'm not. Let's get it on. Let's find out who's the better man. So you can't really do nothing but respect both of them. Both incredible fighters, both good men. And yeah, I think it's a better fight than Dubois. I think it's a harder fight than Dubois. And listen, I think that both men are going to put on one hell of a show.
Yeah, absolutely. It promises to be a great fight. Nick, I was looking at some of the names that were obviously Twitter is a cesspool for rumors, but we've seen the likes of Anthony Joshua, Lawrence Akole, David Adeleye, Fabio Wardley, Derek Chisora. I'm surprised you didn't get a call yourself. And even at one point, Darren Barker got wind of maybe even Vladimir Klitschko turning up. It's such a bizarre
Yeah,
60 minutes or
listen,
so, wasn't it?
I think, to be honest with you, the only real realistic challenger was Joe Martin.
Yeah.
There's no bail. I get a gang are both involved in another fight. Obviously, Deontay Wilder's not in the scene. Andy Joshua's not in the scene. He's not going to get thrown into a fight like that. So the only other fight was Martin. That's the only viable option.
Absolutely, but you say it's the most viable, but at the same time, surely it's the most dangerous. Like no disrespect to the other guys that we just named, but Mark Bakole is the king of the Who Needs Him club. Billy Nelson's been saying that for many years. So not only is it the most viable, it's also the most dangerous.
Listen, like I said to you, I think that Joe and Martin are the two best fighters in the division outside Usyk. There's no doubt about it. The one way I look at it is, really, they were going to always have to face one another at one point. If Joe comes through this fight, I think Martin would have then been fighting a Jaguar, and he would have then been the mandatory for the IBF belt. So they were both going to meet each other no matter what. It just a bit of a shock to everybody that it comes round in this way. But listen, boxing fullies, crazy stories, aye, it's just I'm struggling to get my head around it still. I'm a bit in shock, do you know what I mean? So I think, like I said, I think this is a better fight than Dubois. I think it's a better fight.
Interestingly enough, a name you just mentioned there, F.A. Jagbar, who was due to fight Mark Bakole in May, I think it was. He might be the biggest winner of all this because if Joe Parker and Bakole go in there and have a bit of a war, Bakole and Joe Parker will then take a few months off, Ajagba might find himself as the next in line to challenge Daniel Dubois when Daniel Dubois gets over this illness and he's back in the ring. So the biggest winner of it
You
all
never know.
could be the man
Listen,
that's
that
not throwing a punch.
never say never. I think, yeah, I think the winner of this will still fight Daniel for the IBF title next. And then the winner of that will probably look to fight Usyk. But I don't listen. A week is a long time. A day is a long time in boxing. Look what's happened today. Do you know what I mean? The landscape can change in an hour. So who knows what's going to happen? It's very difficult to predict. Nobody would have predicted this. We've seen Daniel in the open workout yesterday looked fine, and all of a sudden, 24 hours later, he's wiped out with some illness. Who knows what's going on? But yeah, you just never say never. Anything's possible in the heavyweight division. Anything's possible in boxing. So it's exciting. It's interesting.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
my head's a bit fried with it, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Does this to you, Nick? Does this strike like obviously the old boxing cliche of stay ready so you don't have to get ready and the opportunities that come up with these Riyadh season cards? We've seen Josh Padley jump in at the last minute with the opportunity of a lifetime to fight Shakur Stevenson. Obviously, maybe a bit easier for Martin Bakole with him not having to cut weight, but it just shows that importance of being in the gym all year round and staying fit and staying fight ready.
yeah, listen, I think so. Um, I think that the nature of how he's taking the fight, though, I think that if I was to be putting a prediction on it, I don't really want to because I know both men so well. Joe's a very, very good friend of mine. I'm very close with Joe and his family. And obviously, I know Martin extremely well. I like Martin, got a lot of time from Billy obviously coached me for a little bit, but I would have to say it's 60-40 in favour of Joe at the moment, considering maybe even slightly more than that, but I would say 60-40 sway towards Joe because the camp that Martin's had. If both guys had had a good camp, both guys, then it would be 50-50 for me. But I'm leaning towards Joe purely because he's had the last 10 months he's been preparing for this fight. There's left no stone unturned. They're pretty similar, Dubois and Martin, in terms of your prep. I would have to say that Joe has to be the favourite given that.
Absolutely, Nick. It's been absolutely fascinating to get your insight. Just before I let you go, give us a brief prediction for Zhang Kabayel and Peterbia Bivol too.
So I think Caballero will beat Zhang. I think Caballro's too young, too excitable, too much energy, too much fitness for Zhang. I think I'm going to go with Bivol purely because I want to see the trilogy. And I actually had Bivol just edging the first fight. But having said that, very close. Could have went either way. Better by unbelievable fighter. Got a lot of respect for both men. But I'm going to go for Caballero, Beterbiev, and I don't even want to try and predict any other card. I'm not going to predict Joe and Martin. I'm just going to say that I think it's 60-40 in Joe's favour. And listen, most important thing, hope both guys come out of it fit and healthy, return back to their families, both good family men, both got wife and kids. And yeah, that's the main thing that I'm hoping for from the fight, that they both return fit and healthy to their families, both good men, and fair play to them for taking the fight. Fair play to Martin for stepping up, fair play to Joe for accepting it because it's a hell of a fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I second everything you've just said there, Nick. Very good words. As always, it was a great chat with you. Great to get that insight. You was the first name on the tip of my tongue when I thought, right, I need to speak to somebody about what's going on. So I appreciate your time, Nick. Thanks for speaking to SimBoxx.
Nah, listen, thanks for having me, man. Keep in touch, and I shall speak to you very soon. Look, thank you, man.